Are you trying to cull through hundreds or even thousands of your images quickly and efficiently? I'm going to show you how to do it on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions. Don't forget to go to Ask David Bergman. Ask your own photo questions right there on that site. I just might pick it to answer here on a future show. Today, I've got a good one sent in from Sam L., and he wants to know, I shoot a lot of photo assignments that sometimes require 200 or more photos to be edited along with captions, keywords, etc. I have owned Photo Mechanic for years, but I've never figured out a way to get the most out of this powerful time-saving tool. Can you help me out? Sam, thanks so much for sending in that question. I really appreciate it. This is a very common problem. It's so easy now to shoot so many images with fast motor drives and big buffers on our cameras. You can just shoot digital pictures over and over and over, and you wind up with hundreds or even thousands of images, and then you have to do something with all of those photographs and figure out which ones to edit. Now, in the old days, when I used to use the word edit, I was talking about actually culling through your images, editing through to find the best images. I know today, when we talk about editing, we're really talking more about toning the images. That's not what we're talking about today. What this question is about how do you go through all of those images and figure out which ones are the ones you actually want to tone. I've always said, you only want to bring those final images into your raw editing program, whether it's Lightroom, I use Capture One, whatever it is that you use, you want to cull through all of those thousands of images to pick the very best ones and nothing else, and then bring those into your raw converter program where you can work individually on each one. So how do you do that? Well, Sam mentioned the program Photo Mechanic. Now, I've been using Photo Mechanic for, gosh, it's got to be 25 years now. It first came out in the mid-90s, I believe. I worked at the newspaper, the Miami Herald back then, and we used Photo Mechanic to go through our images. It has been an invaluable tool for me ever since. I know just about every newspaper, wire service, high-volume photographer that I know actually uses Photo Mechanic to go through their images. And what I'm going to do today, I get this question a lot about how to use it and how to really make good use of it. So Sam, thanks for bringing it up. What I'm going to do is go through and edit and show you the process of what I do. Now, when I shoot a concert, I shoot thousands of images every single night, usually between 3,000 and 5,000 frames. I have remote cameras, I have 2 handheld cameras, and I shoot bursts. I shoot just like if I was shooting a sporting event, and I have a lot of images. So I'm going to go through the process of how I go through those images every single night to get down to my what I call my finals, my best images. I might start with 5,000 and I want to get down to, let's say, 30 or 50. Those are the images I want to get down to at the end of this. So let's go into Photo Mechanic here on the computer. So like I said, it's a very mature program. We're in version 6 now. It's been around a very long time. The first thing you want to do is you need to get your images actually into your computer. Now, I'm shooting with the Canon 1DX Mark III these days and the R5 camera. They both take these CF Express cards. You have to obviously get the right card for your camera. I'm a big fan of these Prograde cards, Prograde Digital. I have the 512s. I also have 1 terabyte CF Express cards, and then I use their readers as well. I label them because I have multiple readers and they all look the same unless you look at the slot on the front. So when I pull them out of my bag, I want to know which is which. This is my CF Express reader. So I'm just going to hook that up with a USB-C cable right to my computer. And when I mount my card in there, I just pulled a random card from one of my last concert shoots with Luke Combs. So what happens here is you can see it automatically brings up this ingest dialog box. And ingest is basically imports, but you're going to ingest your images into the computer. Now, the way I manage my files, I create one folder that's going to be my master folder for this assignment. So in this case, let's create a new folder here on my desktop. I'll put it right here in the middle so we can see it. And then I name that file, that folder, very specifically so that it works with my archive, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is name it with the date. And I very specifically go year, month, day, 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day. So let's just say this was a recent shoot. It was, I don't remember the exact date, but let's say 2021, 06, 01, right? That's June 1st. We're almost into July now, but let's just say that was the date. So 2021, 06, 01. Now I name it that way because when I have multiple assignments in one folder, which those are all going to go into one folder at the end of this. They're going to sort, if they sort by name, they're going to all sort chronologically. If you only use a 2-digit year, for example, you just put 99 or 00, then the 2000 changeover, if you have old images, is going to mess things up. If you type the date like April 23rd, 2004, that's not going to sort properly. So by going year, month, day from biggest to smallest, it's always going to sort chronologically no matter how old it is. So I do that, and then this was a Luke Combs show, so I'm just going to name it something that makes sense to me. In this case, it's going to be Luke Combs, and let's call it, where did we do a show recently? We'll call it Topeka, Kansas, right? So I'll just put Topeka KS, okay? So that now is my master folder, and that is the folder. Everything is going to go inside that folder. The first thing I do inside that folder is I create another folder called RAW. Now, again, what I'm showing you is my process. There are many ways to do this. There are thousands of different ways to organize your files. I'm showing you my system that I've used for years and years. I'm consistent about it. And so I can find old stuff very easily because it's organized the same way. If you want to take bits and pieces of this and incorporate it into your own workflow, or if you want to copy what I do from scratch, either way is fine. I don't expect everybody to do this exactly like I do, but I want to show you as a working photographer how I've done this for literally decades. So I create a RAW folder in there. I also create another one called Selects, which we'll get to a little bit later. So now we're going to go back into Photo Mechanic, and when I insert a card, I have it set in the preferences, so it automatically brings up this ingest dialog box. Now, let me go through this. The first thing here is the card that you want to ingest images from. You want to import images. So there's my EOS Digital. That's from my 1DX Mark III. One of the many reasons I love Photo Mechanic is this little checkbox right here, this incremental ingest, right? So what that means is if you shot, let's say, 1/4 of a football game and you came in and you ingested those images and then you went back out without wiping your card, which you probably don't want to do. You want to keep a backup. So you go out, you shoot the second quarter, then you come back in and ingest that card again. If you have this incremental ingest checked, it will only import the new images. It knows it already imported the first quarter, so now it's only going to ingest the second quarter. So if you put the card in, even though those old images are on there, you're not going to have duplicates of everything from that first quarter. So that's huge. That's a very big feature that I love in Photo Mechanic. This next part here is if you want to have it create some folders, which I don't want it to do since I create the folders on my own. Up here is your destination. So where do you want to have it copied to? I'm going to go into my Luke Combs Topeka folder and then into my RAW folder. And that's where I'm going to have those images copied to. Now, if you want to copy to a secondary location at the same time on ingest as a backup, you can do that here, which is really, really nice. I personally like to get my images organized, captioned, and organized first, and then I'll do a backup. I still have the images on the card, so if something were to happen to my hard drive during that time, I still would be able to rebuild all those images. But if you wanted an immediate backup, I've done it where I'm on a commercial job and I have an art director or client standing right there, and they have a separate hard drive and they want those raw images, that's where I will do that. So it copies to both at the same time. It's a nice backup. Now here you can filter your files. You can only ingest locked photos or unlocked photos. If you do that in your camera, if you lock the ones that you want to keep or not keep, you can also copy only the raw images. If you shoot RAW plus JPEG, you can have it ingest both of those. If you've got audio files, any other things on there, you can have those. You can select what you want. I shoot RAW only. If I accidentally shoot RAW plus JPEG, I don't need the JPEGs, so mine is always set on copy RAW photos only. Metadata, we're going to get into once I get into the images. You can apply the metadata here on Ingest if you like. Again, I like to get my images in and organize them and apply metadata a little more selectively. So I'm not going to do it on Ingest, but I will do it later. You can do it here on Ingest if you like. You can also do a rename on Ingest. Same thing. I like to do it after the fact, but if you want to rename them as you're ingesting, you can do that as well. And then a few other things as far as if you want the images, the context sheet to open as it's ingesting. I like to do it at the end. And then you can have this set to erase your source images from the disk after they're ingested. Please never, ever, 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 ever do that. Don't do that. You don't want it to erase from the card as it's ingesting. That's a bad idea. You could get corruption. If something happens to your hard drive, you lose those images. Don't do it. Keep them on the card. Later, after you've got everything backed up and saved and however you do your system, then you can go ahead and reformat that card and erase them from there. I do have it set so it unmounts the disk after it's done. That way it just ejects from the computer, and then I can physically take it out and not have to worry about, causing some corruption by doing that. So let's go ahead and hit ingest. So it's pulling in some images here from a shoot. I'm not going to let this go too long because it's just a waste of time to show this ingest, but it's very fast. I'm using the Prograde card, a fast Prograde card, and a fast Prograde reader. So this is happening. These are raw files, which are pretty darn big, and it's moving them in very, very quickly. So I'm going to just stop this process so we don't have to watch the entire card come in. Let's stop that. Yes, I really want to stop that. And then it opens up my images here. Now, this is actually Ashley McBride, who was on the same bill with us at a festival this last week or a couple weeks ago. So at the bottom here, you can see it's ingested 300 images. I have none selected at this time. And then there are CR2, XR, what are they? XMP files that are little text files that are created with some of the metadata and that. So that's why it says 301 plus 301. There is an XMP for each one of those, a little sidecar file for each one of those. I have those images in here. Now, a couple things I do. If I have multiple cards, which I always do because I shoot with multiple cameras, I'm going to then ingest the other cameras' cards, the cards from the other cameras. I'm going to get those all into one folder. Now, I'm very careful about setting the time in my camera. So that way, after I have all of the images in one folder, if I'm shooting with a wide and a tight, right, a long lens and a wide angle lens, and I'm just switching back and forth as I'm shooting, which I've done videos about why I do that and the advantages of having two bodies with two lenses, I'm going to have all of those in one folder. And by default here, Photo Mechanics sorts by file name, which what's going to happen with that is it's going to be all of one camera and then all of another camera. That's not how I want to go through my images. I want to look at them all chronologically. So after I have multiple cards all in the computer in one folder, then all I have to do here in Photo Mechanic is change this sort by file name to sort by capture time. And I've only got one card in here now, so you didn't see a change. But if I had multiple cards, they would then sort them all. So as I shot them, whether I switched back and forth, they would all be chronological. If you're a wedding photographer or an event photographer of any kind, you're probably going to want to look at them chronologically. You don't want to look at all your wide angle and then all your telephotos. That's just not the way you would want to go through an event when you're editing. So I've done that. They're all organized by chronologically now, by time. The next thing I want to do is rename them. I don't like the names of my files to be DB188912. I want them to be something a little more meaningful. So if I find a random file years from now, it's got a name that I know exactly what it is. So with Photo Mechanic, I just do select all. I use a lot of quick keys, obviously, because I've used this program a long time. Anything you're not sure about, all the commands are up here, and they all have quick keys here on the side. So you'll learn those eventually. They're just good time savers. So I'm going to select them all, and then I'm going to go ahead and rename these images. Now, because I've sorted by capture time, when I rename them, I'm going to put a number sequence, and that number sequence is going to stick to the capture time sort. Whatever sort you have on screen, that's how it's going to rename them if you add a sequence of numbers. So that's what I'm going to do. So one of the beauties of Photo Mechanic, yet another beauty of Photo Mechanic, is you can use these variables. So here in my renamed photos, you can actually see that I have right here IPTC year and IPTC month. And what that's going to do, instead of me typing the year, month, day like I did on the folder in the beginning, it's actually going to pull that information from the file. The file itself has the date embedded in it from the camera. Hopefully you've set your camera correctly. I have had issues where I'm in a different time zone and it gets after midnight in one time zone but not in the other, and then it actually thinks it's a different day that it's not. I have had that problem. I have to remember either to change the time zone in my camera or just set this manually. But in most cases, I'm going to use this setup. So this is how I'm renaming it. So year, month, day, it's going to actually pull those. And then again, I'm going to use something that means something to me. So in this case, it's going to be Luke Combs, Topeka, Kansas. And then at the end, I'm going to put a sequence, which is a number sequence. By clicking that, it allows you to set that, and you can set where you want the sequence to start. In this case, I'm going to go 0001. I like to use 4 digits because I'm never going to have more than 9,999 images in one shoot. I've had it happen a couple times, and it's kind of a nightmare to go to 5 digits, but all these assignments are always going to be 4 digits. If you only shoot 20 frames, you could probably do 3 digits, but I think 4 digits is a good you're never going to go higher than that. It'll most likely not going to go higher than that. So I'm going to start at 0001. I hit OK. And then it actually tells you what it's going to do. So 301 photos to rename. DB188893 is going to become 2021-0624, which was the date that I shot these pictures. Luke Combs, Topeka, Kansas. Now, I put underscores also in between. That's just an old school thing. I remember the day when you couldn't have spaces in file names. So I like my file names to not have any spaces in them. That's just me being old school. You certainly can have spaces now in file names. So that's just how I like to do it. But it's telling you here exactly what it's going to do. The last file, number 301, is going to become Luke Combs, Topeka, Kansas, 0301. So I hit rename. It's going to do that. Now, if I had multiple cards and, different cameras, those are now all numbered in order. If I was to change this to file name, which again is the default when you first view your images, they are now going to be chronological. All my cameras all put together in there, remote cameras, everything, all going to be chronological. And that's the way I'm going to want to go through those images. So that's the first thing I do. The other part before I get into the actual editing is IPTC data, caption information. What that is, it's keywords, caption information. This is IPTC metadata, is data that's an industry standard that you can apply to embed inside the image, just text that embeds in the image with basic information. It can have your photo credit, it can have information about the shoot, it can have models' names, who you photographed, information, model releases, anything you want, copyright information, all of that stuff. Unfortunately, metadata does get stripped when you post usually to social media, which is a bummer, something the photo industry has been fighting for many, many years. In the old days when the extra 2 or 3 kilobits made a difference in transmitting over phone lines, it was a big deal. Now it's not really a big deal. Please, social media companies, if you can let that metadata stay in there, this helps us because as files get spread and shared around, that information is lost and you don't necessarily know who took the photograph or if it's model released or where it was taken and all of that kind of stuff. So that's my little pitch there. But I'm going to come in here now and pull up this metadata template. And what this is this is a preset template where you can get a lot of information in there that you can apply as a batch to all of your images. Now, you can go in individually and do this with images, but I apply a batch to everything in this case for myself because I'm just doing one big shoot and I only need some basic information. So there are a lot of fields here you can play with. The main one in my mind is this first one, this description caption. I have my copyright, and again, I can use these variables. So the copyright year is going to be applied automatically after I do this so that I don't have to worry about making sure I type the right year in whenever I shot the image, as long as it's properly done in the camera. So photo copyright, in this case 2021, David Bergman. I have my website, davidbergman.net, and then just basic information about what this was. This was the Luke Combs tour, Heartland Stampede at Heartland Park, Topeka, Kansas, June 26, 2021. Now, because I also photographed Ashley McBride, I put also appearing Ashley McBride. Now remember, any information I put in here is searchable. I can search for the data in these files in my own archive forever. So if, 20 years from now, Ashley McBride, I mean, she's already a big name in the country world, but, she becomes a legendary artist, hopefully. And, 20 years from now, I think back, didn't I photograph her? I think she opened for Luke Combs when I was on that tour in 2021. And I can go into my archive and just search for her name. And as long as it's in this metadata that I'm applying to these images, these files are going to come up. So I want to have her in there if I photographed her. So I've got that. This headline field is something that I used to use when we were selling prints from Bon Jovi. And I had a script that actually pulled that data and applied it to a script that I made that formatted the image with the text at the bottom with the date and the city. I don't really use that anymore, but it's just habit. I put it in there. But you can see there's all kinds of fields in here, right? So I've got my name everywhere possible. I've got my copyright. I have it embed the file name in there. I've got the city and the date. Topeka, Kansas is there. Again, I have it pull the date automatically. All of that stuff. There's so many things you can put in here, and it's just depending on your own business, your own photography, what you need. Again, there are model release information here. That's important to remember years from now if that image has a release on it, if you have a release on that model. So all of that is in here. And so then from there, I just am going to go, I don't know if you can see at the bottom here, it just says apply template to selected. I have all of these images selected. So because they're selected, I'm just going to hit apply template to selected, and it's going to apply all that metadata to those images. Now, if you go ahead and look at one of them, and specifically, it has changed that IPTC year to 2021. It's applied all that data. This is now attached to that file, and it's all nice and neat and in there. So that's how I organize my files, right? So now they're all nice and neat and pretty. And you can see in my raw folder here, back in my Finder, and again, there are these XMP files that contain that data, but those are just sidecars. They stay with it. You can see I've got everything is named and numbered and in order and really nice and pretty. So like I said, if I find this one file randomly, years from now, all I have to do is look at that, and I know it's from June 24th, 2021. It's Luke Combs in Topeka, Kansas. So I like having that in there. So let's open now this again. An easy way, by the way, to open your images as a contact sheet in Photo Mechanic is just to drag it onto the Photo Mechanic icon, and it opens it right up. So now once I have that, now is when I really am going to go in and, quote, edit my images. So I'm going to cull through them and figure out what the best ones are. Now, the way I think of this is kind of like water filtration or garbage filtration, where I do multiple passes, and each time I'm editing down to fewer and fewer images. I'm kind of eliminating the junk, the stuff I don't want to see, not junk, but the images that aren't going to make the finals. And each time I do another pass, I'm going to have fewer and fewer images. And that way I can compare and contrast as I go, and with every pass, the final images are getting better and better. Now, my thought process is the first pass is the worst, right? That's a nightmare because I have thousands of images. In this case, I only took the time to import 300 of them, but I usually have, like I said, 3,000 to 5,000. And it's usually at the end of a night after a long show, and I'm on a tour bus, and it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. I'm in the back lounge working, and I'm starting to fall asleep. So this is the worst part of the whole process. So what I'm doing is I want to make it as easy as I can. I'm not going to get too detailed with this. I'm not going to compare two images. Is it this one or this one? Is that one or that one? Which one's in focus? Which one's not? The first pass, I'm just doing as fast as I can. Anything that I think I want to see again, anything I want to bring to the next round, like a game show. If I want to make those images into the next round, I'm going to select them in a way so that I know to bring them to the next round. But I'm not, that whole like little detail of looking at little differences, I'm not doing that yet, because I don't want to do that with 3,000 images. I want to get through these as fast as I can. So the way I do it is you can select all the images, and then to look at any of them bigger, you actually can click this little magnifying glass, or you do Apple R on a single image, which is preview. And so it brings up the bigger size version, right? So once you have that, you've got some of your EXIF data here. So you can see I shot this with the Canon 1DX Mark III. This is I think this was the 24 to 105 millimeter lens at 24 millimeters. I'm at 800 at 5.6 at 200th of a second. This is Ashley McBride from behind, right? So now, one of the reasons I love Photo Mechanic is because if you bring all of your images into Lightroom or even Capture One, it has to render those raw files to be able to view them. So that takes time. Each image, even if it takes 3 seconds to render a raw file, if you've got 3,000 images, that's a long time. It's 9,000 seconds. I'm not going to do the math, but it's a long time, how many hours that is of editing. So you don't want to do that, especially on this first pass. So Photo Mechanic, the beauty of it is every raw file actually has an embedded JPEG in it. They all do it, as far as I know, every raw file, I think from every company, because that JPEG is actually what they use on the back of the camera. The image that you see on the back of the camera is a JPEG. A raw file is not an image, really. It still has to be converted into an image, but it creates a JPEG. So Photo Mechanic actually only views those JPEGs. So therefore, it's really fast. So as I go through images, it literally is this fast. I can go through this quickly. I have just my fingers on the arrow keys, and I can literally go through images this quickly. And you can see they're full res images. It has the size up here, 5472 by 3648, full size images. So that's the beauty of one of the many beauties of Photo Mechanic. So with that in mind, the way I like to tag my images, there are many ways you can select images. You can color code them, you can do star ratings, or what I like to do in this process is use the tag function, which is the T key Or also on an individual image in the bottom corner here, there's a little checkbox. You could check it manually, you could check it off, or if you're on the image and you hit the T key, it actually checks it for you. You can toggle it on and off. You hit the T key again, it goes off. So with that process in mind, that thought process of just getting through as fast as I can and selecting anything that's decent, I'm going to have 2 fingers on the arrow keys, and I'm going to go through them. And anything that I think is okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the T key. And I'm not going to go back and forth this one or that one, this one or that one. I'm not doing that now. I'm just going through as fast as I can. So I'm going to go through, and as I go through, and I'm just faking this here now, but I'll be like, okay, that one's pretty good. I hit the T. That one's good. This is her guitar player. I remember he put his head back here, so that's pretty good. That's a little better. And then let's just do a couple more. One more here. And I'm not doing a real edit here. Here's one of our video guys, Marcus. There's Kurt. Just some silliness. And let's pull an image or two. There's Ashley with the antennas from the wireless. And let's just pull one of her with the sky here, just for fun. That one where you can see her face. That one a little better. And finally, arms out. Let's go that one. Okay, boom. So let's pretend I've just done that for 3,000 frames. And in my case, that first pass usually is anywhere from 500 to 800 images that I'll select. And the way I know is because after I've done those tags, you can just hit Command T on the Mac, and it will highlight only the ones that I tagged. And if you look down at the bottom, it says selected 12 of 301 in this case. So I have now those 12 images, and again, those 500, 600, 700 images out of 3,000 or 5,000 are basically my best images, right? They're my images that I know I want to look at again. Most of them are not going to make my finals, but I want to look at them again. So the way I do this is I like to still keep my raw folder intact with all of the images from the original shoot if I ever have to go back to it. But I want to take those selected images, that first pass, and copy them into a new folder. So I'm going to hit Command Y, which is copy. And again, there's some settings here that you can read over when you want, but I'm going to go ahead and copy those into my Luke Combs to Topeka folder. And then inside selects, that's where it gets a little messy. Inside selects is where I sort of have all my other folders. So I'm going to create a new folder in there, and I'm going to call this raw first edit. That's just the way I like to call it. It's my raw images, and it's my first edit. I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to copy those over. So now I've got a folder of, inside my selects, I've got my raw first edit, and there are going to be 500, 600, 700 images in there. In this case, there's only 12 with XMP sidecar files. So now you can imagine what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take only that raw first edit and open it in Photo Mechanic. Now I've only got my 12 images, right? Now I'm going to do another pass again. So what I like to do, it still has the tags because those stay with the image. So I'm going to untag them all, which is a simple menu selection right there. Now they're all untagged. Now we start fresh again. So now on this pass, I'm going to go through and I'm going to be a little more selective. Now, how many times you go through this process is up to you and your workflow. When I first started doing a lot of concert work, I would do 3 or 4 passes to really get it down. As I shoot an artist over and over again, and I kind of know what I'm looking for, I can really do it in 2 passes. That's just me. It really just depends how tight you want to get, right? So in this case, let's just say I've done a couple passes, right? But this is now my final pass, right? And I'm down to 12 images, and I want to get it down really to like 5 or maybe 3. In this case, it might just be 1, right? So I'm going to go through, and I'm going to say, okay, now is when I'm going to take the time to look. Is it this one or that one? Which one is it? So like I've got 2 where his head's back here. Here he's a little off center. Here I kind of like him centered a little more. Let's go with that one. So that gets a tag. There he's looking at the guitar. Maybe that's a little better. I think I like his head back better. So forget the one where he's looking at the guitar. And then there's a fun picture of Marcus. I might send that to him, so I might tag that one. I'm not going to do it right now. And then let's pull one of Ashley with her arms out. Boom. Okay? So now I've gone through those 800 images, and I've got it down to 50. In this case, I'm down to 2. All right? So now these 2 images are the ones that I want to actually finally edit. So I'm going to now take those and copy those. Each time I make a pass, I'm going to copy those into a new folder. I might call that raw second edit, right? And then raw third edit, depending on how many you want to do. In this case, I'm going to call this raw finals because these are my final images, right? And then you can see at the end of the day, I've got my raw finals, and those 2 images are the ones that I'm going to bring into Capture One. And then I'm going to create a folder, a project within Capture One that's named the same way with the year, month, the day, and Luke Combs, Topeka, Kansas. In this case, I might rename it Ashley McBride, but whatever it is. And that folder is only going to have the images from that shoot. Actually, here, let's pull it up so you can see it. I'll pull up my capture one. So there's that image that I pulled out. And that's how I use Photo Mechanic. And at the end of the day, I've got one nice, neat folder. And by the way, after I do my edits, I will then create another folder in here, and I might call it Finals Sent to Clients. And I'm going to export the JPEGs into that folder, and I'm going to have them all right there. So, and if I email pictures to, like that picture of Marcus that I might want to send to him, I'll create another folder, email to Marcus, whatever it is that makes sense to me. And at the end of the day, I have one nice, neat folder. I don't have images all over my computer and half edited here and finals here and, first edits there. They're all in one folder. And then I can take that one folder and back that up to external hard drives, and I got RAIDs and all that kind of stuff, and NAS systems and all of those things. Again, another video, but because I edit the way I do in Photo Mechanic, it allows me to very easily have all of those images in one place, organized in one folder. Makes sense. They're captioned. They're chronological, and it really works out well for me. So finding old images is very, very easy. Anyway, that's how I use Photo Mechanic. I hope that helps you guys. What do you guys do? Do you have a good system like this? Is your system a mess? Let me know below down in the comments. Hopefully this will help you get organized a little bit. Maybe it'll inspire you to finally develop a system to get your images organized. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Remember, I'm back here every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern with a new question. I hope you're already a subscriber to the Adorama YouTube channel. If not, go ahead and click that button down below. Hit that little bell icon. You'll be notified of new videos as soon as they come out. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, I'll be back here with a new question next week, right here on Ask David Bergman.